It's Colonel Conrad Reynolds, and welcome to the Colonel of Truth. With me, I have a special guest, a wonderful person, a wonderful American, Kari Lake.
Oh my gosh,
thank you. The governor of Arizona, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, in exile, I guess.
In exile. Well, you're here in Arkansas.
I'm here in Arkansas, and I like to consider you a friend. We've become friends because we both care so much about getting things back the way they're supposed to be here in America, which is actually following law and order and having elections that are lawful instead of fraudulent. And so that's kind of how we met, and I'm so thrilled that you invited me here.
Well, we're glad to have you. The reception you got last night, tell everybody what that meant.
Ooh.
There at the district meeting in Cabot.
It was beautiful. First of all, I'm blown away by the patriotism and the wonderful people who are ready to get to work to make sure that we can turn this country around. And it was beautiful. The enthusiasm when I walked in, I'm undeserving of it, but I'm so grateful for it. I'm just one person in this fight to save our country. Right. And I was thrilled to be in that room with maybe 500 or more people who were enthusiastic at the end of a long day. And it was just beautiful. Very raucous crowd, my kind of crowd.
Me
but you know, we don't get, that was one of the best. I'm going to be honest. And I've been in at rallies with President Trump where there's 50,000 people. This was a powerful group of Americans who are saying, wait a minute, if we don't get involved and do something, we're going to lose this great country. And so it was an honor to be with them. And they just were so kind. I think there's a little bit of that Southern charm and Southern politeness that you see.
Hospitality.
Hospitality, yes, it was great.
Over 500, I think about 500 people there. But the key thing here is that they love you and they love your message. They love what you stand for. And in America, you know, and I've seen it time and time again, people don't know what to do, and they're looking for some leadership. That's why Donald Trump was so popular. That's why, because people finally found someone that was saying what they felt and someone who was willing to act on it. And you've been doing that. You're doing that now.
That's why they had to tear Donald Trump down. Before, I say it all the time, before he ran for office, everyone loved him. I mean, entertainment world, sports world, the political world.
Sure.
And then he runs, and the swamp, and I call it the swamp or the Uniparty, and I hate to say it, there's some Republicans in there. It's not just comprised
of... I don't hate to say it. They are not on our side.
They are not. There's Democrats and Republicans. We're really up against the Uniparty versus America First.
It is
Americanism or globalism, communism.
That's
and they had to take him down. They worked in conjunction, in cahoots, with their people in the fake news to do an 8-year smear campaign on President Trump to try to tear him down, to tear down his agenda of putting America first. And I always say to people, if you don't like President Trump, you've been the victim of a smear campaign, a coordinated effort by the most corrupt individuals in Washington, D.C. and other swamp locations, and a coordinated effort by their swamp cronies in the fake news to tear him down, get inside your brain, and brainwash you into thinking that the guy who's actually fighting for you is your enemy. And they did the same thing to me.
Right.
Even though I came 30 years from the media, I figured at least I wouldn't have to deal with that part. Immediately when they realized, oh my gosh, she's America First. She's not, we can't blackmail her. We can't bribe her. We can't control her. We got to destroy her. And that's why I tell people when I'm out speaking, and whether it's around Arizona, around the country, go out there and support the people that the fake news is attacking the hardest. Don't believe a word that they're saying. I used to think there was a tiny kernel of truth into each hit piece story. Like there's somewhere in there's a truth. I've had so many stories written about me where I couldn't find one thing that was factual.
Wow.
It's just making it up. Fiction.
Just making it up.
Yeah. And they do that all the time.
I just saw a couple...
hoax after hoax after hoax on President Trump. But listen, we'll be right back here on the Colonel of Truth with our guest, Kari Lake. Welcome back to the Colonel of Truth with my special guest, Kari Lake. We're so glad to have you in Arkansas.
I'm loving it here. I really am. I mean, I mentioned that my dad almost moved us here when I was 10.
Right.
And I'm from the family of 9. But at that time, a few of the older kids had moved out of the house, and it was just, I think, 4 or 5 of us left in the house, and we were going to move here. And after that wonderful warm welcome I got, and just the beautiful people, the kindness that I've experienced since I've been here, I'm like, well, maybe that would have been a good idea had you moved us here.
We'd love to have you. Too bad you didn't come down, but we're glad you're here today. And one of the things I want to talk about in this segment is your book. You got a great book out, and I love the title, Unafraid.
Unafraid. I truly am unafraid. I'm thinking we might all be unafraid. Once you walk through what fears you have and you get to the other side, nothing can stop you. Nothing can make you afraid. And that's where I am right now.
Especially when you're wearing the armor of Jesus.
That's right. Absolutely. Every day.
What are you going to be afraid of?
God's and right. Totally in charge. But I will say I have one fear.
What's
People
that?
go, wait a minute, your book says Unafraid. My fear right now is that if we don't work hard, we're going to lose our country. The fear
Right.
of losing our country is what is keeping us moving right now.
I agree.
And I am not afraid to take on the globalists, the swamp, whoever comes at me, the cartels. I look them right in the eye and say, bring it, because you don't know what it's like to go up against a fed up, pissed off mom.
Well, you know what?
It's a whole new level.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Well, one of the things that irritates me more than anything is people who say they're Republicans, who don't vote that way, and they don't make a stance, and they don't stand up. And for example, at the border, we've got congressmen even from Arkansas here saying, "I've been to the border 7 or 8 times." But what have they done?
Yep.
What bills have they put in Congress to fix it? They haven't. My mom used to say, people are afraid to be afraid.
But once you show an act of courage and
Right.
you realize that you survive, I mean, for me, it was when I walked away from my career. I'd worked so hard. Youngest of 9, we grew up dirt poor. Nobody told us that. I didn't realize we were dirt poor. I
Right.
did know we didn't have food in the fridge a lot of times, but that didn't translate. And we had to work hard for every single thing we had. I worked my way, paid my way through college. I talk about this in the book. I was 16 when I graduated from high school. Couldn't wait to get out and on my own. And I probably figured it'd be easier to be on my own than, back at the house having to work for everything. Little did I find out, no, you have to work pretty hard on the outside as well. And I worked my way through college and into a dream career, only to walk away during COVID because I realized that my career as a broadcast journalist and a newswoman had become propaganda, and I didn't
Right.
want to lie to people. So the fear for me was walking away from a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's people out there listening right now who had to face that fear as well. Maybe it was their boss telling them, you got to get a shot or get out. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was being censored and being canceled and they lost a job and lost a paycheck. Maybe they were working at a hospital and didn't like the standard of care that they were being told to give people who are in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And they had to make a difficult decision. Do I walk away from my livelihood, or do I do something that is immoral and I can't live with myself? A lot of people
Right.
had to make that choice.
Sure.
I made the choice. I walked away from a career that I loved. I walked away from a 7-figure contract.
Mm-hmm.
In a time when the economy was dicey at best. And I just prayed to God. I said, God, I know I'm doing the right thing here. And would you please just give me a sign? I don't want to look back in 6 months and say, I regret that. Just give me a sign that it's going to be okay. And I put this in the book. It's the second page of the book. I opened up my Bible that was sitting on my desk, and I just opened it to a random page and dropped my finger down. As I was having this conversation with God. And this is the verse, 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 7. For we brought nothing into this world, and it is certain we can take nothing out. And I want people to remember that. It's not the riches you have. It's not your bank account. It's not your 401k and your benefits plan and your pension. None of that matters at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You don't take that with you.
Right.
And none of it matters if we lose our country. And
Exactly right.
And none of that impresses God.
Right.
And I want that meeting to go really well.
Me too. Me too. I think that first off, I want to talk a little bit about your book, because I think that some of the passages in it are just great. The one I really love, I remember the one I really love is you talked about you growing up in Iowa, mm-hmm. and that I think you're the youngest. You had all the old kids, and you got all the hand-me-downs. And you said you had a decade's worth of hand-me-downs.
I was retro. They didn't have a word for it back then.
I thought that was
retro.
So funny, because I'm the youngest of 5, so the same thing happened to me.
Well, here's the sad part of it.
Yes.
8 girls and 1 boy, so there were plenty of girl hand-me-downs, so they were really getting kind of old and shabby by the time. And this is why we worked so hard, because I grew up as a teenager in the 80s under Ronald Reagan.
Right.
I call it the red pill generation, because we didn't need to be red pilled. We were living in a patriotic time with a great president who was strong, brought an end to the Cold War, great patriotic movies in our culture.
Felt good to be in America in the 80s, didn't it?
And this is what President Trump wanted to do. But the left and the Uniparty and the swamp recognized, this guy's going to be unstoppable if he brings America together under that common denominator we all have, that we love our country. That's why they had to start painting being pro-America as racist and all the other garbage.
Right.
Last night we saw the warm welcome you got. It's the opposite of how the media treats you.
Truly.
But it's one or two reactions to the same message. What is it about the message that draws that visceral of a response from the media, but also that greatness of hope and everything that the crowd last night showed you?
Well, the media is absolutely corrupt, and I think in many ways colluding with the deep state, the swamp, whatever you want to call it, the deep state. They're colluding. They've got people inside the media doing their bidding. And
we see it every day on
and
CNN.
we're dangerous because we're dangerous to the status quo. We're dangerous to the system that is working to tear down our country. And they really see a danger in me. With Trump, they went, okay, got COVID, we brought him down, we sold the election, we're done with Trump, right? They said that, he's over.
Yep.
But he's not, because he stands up and fight. And then they see me. And there's a chapter called Trump in Heels. They wrote an article and called me that, thinking it was an insult. I said, that's the greatest compliment ever. Thank you. I will be Trump in Heels.
Yeah, that's great.
And they're worried. They go, okay, now we have a female version who's a mom, who's well-spoken. I mean, I've worked in media. I understand how to communicate with people, much like Ronald Reagan, the great communicator. I bring some of those same skills.
Right.
And they went, oh, no, double, triple threat here. What do we do? One of the articles said, the most dangerous politician in America. I remember during the campaign, my team would send me some of the headlines.
Right.
Drinking my coffee one morning, I'm thinking, oh, this must be a story about President Trump, and it must be mentioned in it. I scroll down, and it's my picture. That's when I realized they're going to do everything in their power to tear me down. And it was almost immediately after that headline came out that we started seeing these Soros papers, these Soros media companies just come at me. That's when we saw Barack Obama come to town and start attacking me. We saw Eric Holder come to town and start attacking me. Hillary Clinton started talking about me. First I laughed at that, and then I thought, oh my gosh,
am I in trouble?
This is not funny. Hillary Clinton's talking about me. And that's what I said. Hey, listen, I'm in perfect health. The brakes on my car have been checked, and they're in working order, and I am not suicidal, okay? When the Clintons start talking about you, you kind of tense up a little bit.
Yeah, would you say the two worst exports from the state of Arkansas?
Yeah, there's only two things I don't like, the exports, Hillary and Bill.
That's right.
And I was hoping nobody was recording it because I didn't want to end up in the bottom of the Arkansas River.
That was a great line. Great.
Just got to make sure I get out of here without their people finding me.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you. So what's your future? What's going to happen?
Well,
with Kari Lake
I
now?
am continuing moving our case forward.
Okay.
We got to keep these election cases. I believe that we have the strongest election case in the country because we have the evidence. Unlike the fake news, there's no evidence. Well, I can't help it if you as a journalist aren't doing your job by actually looking at the evidence. There's plenty of it, and guess where it comes from? Maricopa County elections. Mm-hmm. That's where we got our evidence. And we got our evidence from voters who were caught up in this mess. And we have sworn declarations, and we have world-renowned experts speaking about our evidence. So there's plenty of evidence. The propagandists choose not to see it. So we're going to keep our case moving forward. We just asked for it to be expedited into the Arizona Supreme Court. We'd like to, if it doesn't, if we don't get relief in our Supreme Court in Arizona, get it to the U.S. Supreme Court. Right. We have to support these cases. We can't win in the legislature in Arizona because we have a fraudulent governor who will never sign legislation. Our cases are critical. We started Save Arizona Fund to help fund our legal fees and getting the word out and messaging about these cases so people understand what's happening.
Right.
And we're going to keep them in there. We're not going to stop because we believe that as more and more and more evidence comes out about election fraud, not just in Arizona, but all over the country, even in states that are seemingly have it together, there's fraud. As more and more, and the weight of that bears down on the shoulders of these judges, that one of them will finally show an act of courage.
Man, we're praying, and we're going to talk about that in our next segment about what's going on right here in Arkansas. But we thank you, our folks. We've got Kari Lake in the studio. We're going to be back in just a few minutes, back on the Colonel of Truth show. We're taking a break.
Awesome.
Okay, welcome back to the Colonel of Truth, and in studio I've got Kari Lake. We are so happy to have you here.
I could talk to you guys all day.
Too bad you have to get on a plane.
I know, I don't want to leave.
So we got one
Arkansas.
segment left, and so we want to talk about a couple of things here. I want to talk about election integrity, but I also want to talk about first what it's going to take when President Trump, if he gets into office, which we think he will, what do we need to have in place? What do we need to have in place for him when he takes office the first day.
To be successful.
Well, I already know no matter what President Trump will be successful. Look what he did his first term. He got through, with the swamp, fighting him in the media and everything. Imagine if we don't have that and we're able to root that corruption out. We don't have just a bunch of swamp creatures surrounding him. Imagine if we have America first moms and dads and, whoever, citizen politicians winning and getting there and surrounding him. We're going to get this country turned around so quickly. Go to his website, donaldjtrump.com. Go look at Agenda 47. This is policy, transformative policy for America. He's got solutions, not just scratching the surface. These things go deep on how we turn this mess around.
Okay, we want to say that again. So I want every
DonaldJTrump.com and go to Agenda 47. It's his plan to turn this nightmare that Joe Biden has created around and save America. And so I'm really excited about this agenda. I got to know a lot of policy. We put our policy together, and it's very similar in some ways, but this is the most transformative policy I've ever seen. I challenge you out there. Show this policy or talk about it. Read it to one of your Democrat friends or somebody who's independent. Maybe you don't even mention where it's coming from. Say, hey, wouldn't it be great if this is how we solve our problem in our schools? What about how we handle China buying up our farmland and our natural resources and our technology and coming in here? What if we handled it this way? I guarantee you, if they're Democrats or independents or Republicans, they're going to go, that's great. I love it. Let's do it. When can we start?
Because it's transcending policy.
It's policies that's just a common sense solution to get us out of the mess we're in. So I'm really excited about it. We need to get people around him, though, and elect people who are going to support his agenda. So he doesn't have to go in there and be constantly fighting with the people who should be working with him for the people of America.
Yeah, I thought about this. When President Trump gets in, he's got 2 years. Those first 2 years are going to be critical because, obviously he'll be a one-term president after that. I mean, he'll have 2 years left. He's not going to be able to run again.
Oh, he'll work hard every day for 4 years.
But we need Congress. We need Congress, I think.
We're going to have a red Congress.
We got to have a solid
2 years.
conservative Congress that will enact his policies in those first 2 years.
Yep.
And the problem we had when he came in 2017 is we had the Republicans had the House and the Senate.
We had guys like Paul Ryan in there.
That's right. And they could not get it through. They couldn't get things through that needed to be done, particularly
undermining him. And
you know what? Step of the way.
Undermining the people of this country.
That's exactly right.
It's disgusting, and I'm glad that a lot of them have been rooted out, and we need to probably root out a bunch more corrupt people.
Well, when I hear people talk about, particularly, unfortunately, some Republicans who talk about the Democrats, the fact that the southern border is not secure, I go, wait. When we had the House, we had the Senate, we had the presidency, and Trump said, send me a bill. Let's get it funded. Let's build a wall. Let's get it done. And they were dragging their feet. They did everything they could not to get it done.
Talk about it in my book. John McCain for years would come down. He'd only come to Arizona 6 months every 6 years, and he'd go, let's build the wall, build the fence. And then when Trump comes in and says, let's do it, John, let's do it, he fought him.
Right.
And these guys fought it. They used it in ads to get our vote, and then they disappointed. Fundraise, absolutely. And then
they point out problems to raise money.
That's right.
But not to solve a problem.
And that is the problem. So we need to make sure the message is, I would assume, the message is to get people in office this next year in 2024 that are going to support the America First agenda.
Yeah. We heard there's a seat in Arizona that might need some American
and
first.
Vote for the people who are being attacked by the media. Everyone says, what's next? My case is first and foremost, and I'm going to keep that going. No matter what I do next, we're going to keep that case in there. We think a day will come when we're going to get when our case actually, somebody said, topples the first domino. I thought that was a great analogy. There's a Senate seat that's opening up. Kirsten Sinema is sitting in it right now, and we have a absolute radical Democrat running who would be just devastating.
Right.
And so I'm eyeing that. I've looked
Senator
at a lot of
Lake. I like that.
I've looked at a lot of polling.
Yeah.
Never even thought about running for it. I just was so concentrating on trying to get our elections squared away so that all legal votes count.
Right.
But I had a very powerful person come to my door. I told the story last night. And they're a political person. They said, what would it take? They offered me a job, a title, and position on a board if I just put our movement on ice for 2 years. They said, we just don't want you on the ballot in 24.
Really?
They know that I would help President Trump just having my name on the ballot.
Right.
And it would be powerful. We'd get people out. And I said, well, it was funny. I wasn't really even considering running at that point. And that person saying that to me said, and then they offered, how much would it take to keep you out of the race in 24?
Pretty much a blank check.
Yeah, what would it take? How much money? What would it take? And I'm like, wow. You read about this, you hear about it in the movies. It happened to me.
It's at my front door.
Mm-hmm.
It's at my front door. And I thought about it, and if these people want us out so bad, maybe we need to stay in.
Right.
And so I'm contemplating a run
Arizona
for Senate.
needs a strong voice. Absolutely.
We
a
need
strong
someone who's
senator.
going to work for the people.
You better believe it.
And take the people's business back to D.C. and
Right.
do the people's business in D.C. rather than working for your consultants and your big dollar donors. My donors, much like Trump's, are real everyday people who would send $10 or $20. I'll never forget it. Mom saying, I'm a mom. I'm so worried about our future. This is all we can afford right now. And they would send me pictures and letters from their kids.
Right.
And it just, that's who's behind. That's who's fueling us.
Right. Right.
I got a hypothetical for you two. Let's say it's 2025 and Senator Lake is there. Maybe even Congressman Conrad Reynolds. Maybe he runs again. Who knows? But let's say we're in there and Congress comes out and said, we need more money for voting computers. We need billions of more dollars to update the voting computers. What are you guys going to say?
Well, hopefully by then we don't have the computers anymore,
Amen.
the
That's
machines.
exactly
I mean,
right.
I sued to get rid of the machines in Arizona about a year before the election. No, actually, I'm sorry, about 6 months.
Really? Okay.
An Obama judge saw it, threw the case out, tried to sanction our attorneys. I tried to prevent the disaster of voting machines with this lawsuit before the election.
Right.
We get to the election, the machines break down, and they're saying you shouldn't have fought it. And so, we have to get rid of these machines. We don't even know how they work. They won't show us. We can't check under the hood. And the components are made by our adversaries.
Yes. Yep.
This is insanity.
The same country that, my national security ad here, and I've said this on the show before, the same country, communist country, that is trying to get every bit of information, break into every computer system in our government, whether it's the FBI, DIA, CIA, whatever, they also make our computers for these voting machines, but they don't touch those.
It's a national security risk.
It absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
And we know it. I know we only got a couple of seconds left.
Here's the thing. We're spending a fortune in elections around this country. We don't have to spend that much money. We go back to election day. We do paper ballots, show photo ID, just like you do when you go try to buy a 6-pack of beer or whatever, check out a book or anything like that. And we count in the small precinct in which we voted in.
You got it.
And we know when we
count
go
audits.
Hand count audits.
So if it goes to a tabulator, we got to
Easy,
hand count.
easy.
Folks,
It doesn't cost that
I would
much.
love to keep this conversation on. And Kari, I wish you'd stay forever.
I do too.
But unfortunately, we gotta go. But thank you for coming in.
Thank
you
you.
for
Get you back on
talking
by
to
Zoom.
the people here in Arkansas.
Thank you for
And
what
we
you're
love
doing.
you.
I'm happy. I'm honored to call you friend
Same
and be
here.
in this fight with both of you. And
Appreciate
I
you so
just want
much.
people to know really quickly, do not lose hope. Don't lose faith. I say this all the time. The same God that parted the Red Sea is with us today. And
You got it.
sometimes we feel like we're too small to make a difference. He put us here at this moment, just like
That's
he
it.
put the founding fathers there 247 years ago.
Yeah.
And he knows we're going to be the ones that save this country.
That's it. Well, thanks for coming.
God bless you guys.
Make sure you
Okay,
check
Colonel
out Kari's
Truth.
book, Unafraid.
Yeah,
Yes.
check it.
You can get it on
Unafraid.
Amazon or KariLake.com if you want to buy it from the publisher, and you can find it. It's an
I already
awesome
got my
read.
copy, folks.
It's an awesome
great.
read.
All right. Take care. Thank you so
Thanks.
much. Bye-bye.